Hello and welcome back to the second of our 4 sessions together in the Foundations of Mindful Communication. So for those of you who don't know me, I'm Bronwyn Satch, Nationally Accredited Mediator and Communication Facilitator and Coach. And last session, I introduced and defined mindfulness and nonviolent communication. They're the two of the core pieces of Foundations for Mindful Communication. So in this session, I'd like to dive deeper into some of these powerful tools that make up the foundations of skillful mindful communication. In a moment, I will just take you through another mindfulness practice. This is an anchoring practice which you can use while in conversation. It's a really good practice to help keep you anchored and grounded in a conversation. So we'll then go through a step-by-step nonviolent communication practice, and it's based on the work of Dr. Marshall Rosenberg. It's a classic NVC, observation, feeling, needs, request process. And this really helps to retrain our attention on those areas of observations, feelings, needs, and requests. And these areas are where we'll really promote effective flow of communication and understanding. So just bear with me. I'm going to share my screen now. Just bear with me. Find the slideshow. Okay. Just moving my face out of the way. Okay, so as I've spoken about, communication is a co-created process. So this is being created at the time of the conversation. And we can't know exactly how things will go or what the other person will say or how they'll respond. And using mindfulness helps to keep us present to that unfolding nature of a conversation. And keeping ourselves anchored really helps our nervous system and emotions stay regulated, not controlled, but more regulated and more in the present moment. So we practice these anchor points, these meditations at a time when we're relaxed and calm. And then when we're in more challenging circumstances, we can then easily come back to these anchor points. So just now, we're going to do the practice now. So just sitting comfortably, sitting upright. This is not a sleep-inducing practice. This is, we want to promote alert and wakefulness. And before you close your eyes, so the first anchor is actually sight. So just before you start to sort of turn yourself inwards, just looking around you. So just look around wherever you are. Just take in your surroundings. Now this is called orienting. And as a mammal, so human beings are mammals, in order for the nervous system to feel safe, it's important that it knows where we are and that we are in a safe environment. So by taking in our surroundings, I can see walls and a window. I can see furniture, a lamp. So this helps us settle and feel safe. So just looking around you, just slowly let your head, neck move. And then just more specifically, just picking out 3 specific colors. So just pause for a couple of breaths on each color. And just take in the sight of the color. Really let yourself see the colour. You may naturally just start to breathe a little bit deeper, just with orienting yourself, connecting with colours. This will already turn down that conceptual monkey mind. It's bringing your nervous, is bringing your attention to something different than your thoughts and the train of thoughts that goes through the mind. So just taking 3 longer, deeper breaths, just as you close your eyes or just even glancing down, just to bring your attention more inwards. So the next anchor is just focusing on your breath. So just a couple of longer, deeper breaths. And when I say focus on your breath, just the physical act of breathing, just really feel where the breath goes, the air coming through the nose. Just noticing which parts of your body move when you breathe. So breathing can be a very useful anchor, except if you're feeling really anxious and your breath is really shallow. Sometimes bringing your attention to your breath can make you feel more anxious. So I'm just taking you through a variety of anchor points, and you can see which ones you find most effective or which ones you connect with the best. Just getting a sense of the chair beneath you. So wherever you're sitting, just feel the support, feel your weight on the chair. Feel all the points of contact where your body makes contact with the chair. Just feeling the weight of the body, the movement of gravity drawing us down. And just placing your feet flat on the ground if you can. And just pushing your feet one by one, just alternately pushing the feet into the ground. So feeling gravity, feeling our weight, feeling the chair beneath us or the ground. It can be really settling when the energy is getting high and activated in the head, when you're really in your head and there's a really high, strong, distressful energy. It can be really useful to just connect with gravity, weight, and the feet, just to really ground yourself. And the next anchor point, we're just tuning into sound. So just noticing what you can hear in your environment. And again, just picking out 3 specific sounds and let yourself linger on each sound just for a couple of breaths. And then just noticing, we're just going to bring your attention now to your center line. So just really connecting with your center line gives a sense of strength and energy and confidence. It can lift your confidence. So just first of all, just imagine a cord that's attached to the top of your head, just gently drawing you upwards. So you're just lengthening and drawing yourself upwards just slightly, lifting through the spine. And then just move slightly side to side and back and forward, and just then settling back to the center. This really gives you a real strong sense of where your center line is. So just connecting with your center line, as I said, it can give you a sense of lift and confidence, and it can help open up the torso so you can breathe a bit freer. And now the next anchor, just bringing your fingertips together. Just very subtly, just feel the fingerprints. So it's a very subtle movement. These are all things you can do in the midst of conversation. No one needs to know about. Just bringing even just two of your fingers together. Just notice the fingerprints, or you can press all the fingers together. So connecting all the fingers, just bringing them together. That pressure, this can be useful when anxious or intense, and this can be really grounding, just to hold your hands together. Can really activate the arm muscles, so that activating that pressure in the muscles can help regulate anxiety. Or you can just be really soft and tickly. You can actually just, if things are very intense and maybe very down and heavy, you can just lightly tickle the fingertips together just to bring an internal lift and even maybe a smile. So I'm just going to, as we finish up, just go through each of those specific anchors, and I just encourage you to make note of one of them, one of these anchor points, to keep coming back to and just practice using it in daily life, particularly in conversation, and then especially getting ready for any difficult conversations. So you've always got an anchor to come back to ground you. So the anchor points were breath, so you can come back to your breath. Sounds, you can tune into the sounds around you, even for a few seconds. You can tune into sight. You can really connect with your center line and lengthen through the spine. You can connect with your feet, plant your feet into the ground. Or just feeling gravity, just feeling that weight, that gentle downwards motion of the gravity and the weight of the body, the seat beneath you, or the fingertips. You can just come back to the fingertips. I thank you for practicing with me. Now, before we get into the main part of today's session, I just want to name specifically what I class as the 4 foundations of mindful, skillful communication. So presence or mindfulness, as I said, I use these terms a bit interchangeably, but being present, I see as probably the first and foremost of the foundations for skillful communication. So as skillful communicators, we don't necessarily have to say the first thing that pops into our head. So we don't have to be on automatic. So with mindfulness and presence, we can consciously direct our communication according to well-reasoned choices, not just based on our reactions. So based on our consciously chosen intentions, and by bringing more of this presence and mindfulness into the way we communicate, we can be more aware of what we're doing, what's important for us, and be more available for the other person. And we can go deeper into our experience. So mindfulness helps us to drop deeper into what's happening into our experience. And we use the process of NVC. So the second of these foundations is needs. And needs is one of the pieces of the NVC process, which we'll go through today. So using the 4-step NVC process, we can really change the way that we're viewing things, and it helps guide us from our judgments and who's right, who's wrong, who's good, who's bad, those sorts of things, to what are our needs and values and our intention. So the third point is intention. So we really want to cultivate and be able to access the qualities that are more likely to lead to better outcomes for us and others. So we're really wanting to cultivate a sense of care and curiosity, and in some situations cultivating a sense of loving kindness can be useful, particularly around family and friends, our relationships. And the NVC trainer Ingrid Bauer, she mentioned something in one of her courses that to do with intention. Like if all you do is every time your child, she spoke about children, so if every time your child, and I say, or your intimate partner, approaches you and wants something, like they're coming towards you, they want something, if all you do is regardless of how you feel, so you might be feeling irritable, tired, whatever, there's any number of things that could block that connection. So regardless of how you feel or what's going on for you, if you can just turn to them physically with your full attention and heart open, with the intention to really see them and be open to them and inviting, even for a few seconds, this can really change the dynamics of the relationship. So you can see that something like intention, regardless of the words, the intention can really set up for good communication and good relationships. Of course, if we're in a work environment, then we most probably won't be coming from loving compassion, but we can hopefully have the intention to be curious and to have a warm regard for those around us, for our work colleagues. I can usually cultivate that at work, not necessarily going for loving kindness particularly. And emotional regulation. So I think this is a really key piece in communication. If we're able to understand and manage our emotional reactions, things like anger, anxiety, stress, it's endless, then difficult conversations become less difficult. So quite often it's our emotional reaction that we're struggling with. That's a big thing. So if we can manage our emotional reactions, then we have more chance of being more present and more effective in communication, in a conversation. So today I would like to now focus on this process, this classic NVC process, we call it, Marshall Rosenberg's original process that he set out to really help us to train our attention from judgments to feelings and needs. So this was developed, I think, in the 70s, 80s by Marshall Rosenberg as a training tool. So I I invite you now to actually choose a difficult situation in your life, probably not the most difficult, just something that you can practice with, and just go through the process. So I've got an expanded version of this NVC process, and I'll actually take you through step by step. So if you choose a situation in your life that you're struggling with, that you're finding difficult, and you can go through with me this journaling tool. So just to be clear, this is not a script that will actually speak out. It's a learning tool just to help reorient our thinking and attention away from what's right, wrong, good, bad, and or getting locked into a solution. We want to really consider deeply what's important to me in this situation. So we're going to find the trigger, we're going to isolate the trigger, and then listen to what's really important to me in this situation. And then we won't go through this today, but ideally then once you understand what's important to you in this situation, then you do it for the other person and you really deeply consider what's important to the other person. And of course it's just a guess, but that's just to shift our thinking again to what they're needing. All this is based on the principle that everything that we do and say, all behaviors, anything that anyone says or does is based on them meeting needs, trying to meet needs. So going over and over this process with lots of different scenarios really helps to integrate the essence of nonviolent communication into our everyday interactions. We can really relate it to our actual everyday life. Okay, so the basic steps, I'll just go through the basic steps quickly now and then we'll go through in more detail. So observation. So what did I find triggering? What do I know for sure? So this is where we describe our difficult situation. Let's say a friend said they would call and then they didn't call. So my observation would be, they said they would call yesterday and they didn't call. That's the observation. Now that's in neutral, unbiased, what's called, as a mediator, we call reporter speech. So we're just reporting the facts. Now, obviously, there's a lot more going on in our mind but the actual observation and the trigger point, that was the triggering point, was that my friend said she would call and then she didn't. It's a day later and she didn't. That's the observation. Now, how did that make me feel? So I might have felt confused, upset. What was I needing? Okay, so now this is where we go a little bit deeper. Why was that triggering? What do I really value in this situation? I really value our connection. I really value the support that relationship gives me. So support and connection would be the sort of the needs underlying. And then requests. So what are some ideas that might help to move things forward and start to meet needs? So what would I request, or what would help move things forward? Well, probably the first request I would make to myself was to journal, to journal this a couple of times, journal for me, journal for them. A request would be to start a conversation, just have a conversation with a friend, find out what was happening, come with curiosity and care, find out what was happening. So this is the sort of thing we're looking at, and I will now like to take you through my expanded version of this journaling tool, and has a few extra steps to it that I think are very useful. So this is what it looks like as a sheet of paper. If you have my workbook or you've joined my classes, you probably have a copy of this, and it's just, I like to keep it on one sheet of paper we'd want to keep it, we don't want to feed and fuel the situation. We'll just keep it very succinct. And so this is the one sheet version. Now I will, so just if you choose, if you haven't already, just pause this video, choose a situation that was sort of a recent one that you found difficult, and I'll take you through each step. So I will talk it through probably fairly quickly. So just as you need, just pause the video so you can just write down your the piece in that each section. Okay, so so step one, honest expression, raw, honest, yeah, an unedited version. So you just want to really express what was happening. Sorry, my microphone. So you want to, in classic NVC, this is called jackaling. So the jackal is used to represent just the regular way we would speak, just that sort of raw, unedited, usually quite judgmental. Those, yeah, we just let it out. It's important to really to get this out and to see it, not to push it away or suppress it or say that it's bad, it's wrong. I've tried all that, it doesn't work. So just letting it out in a very unedited form. And we're just looking for information. The reason for doing this is that this is actually very useful information. And just to really emphasize, it's for your ears only, or for your practice partner. You may be, if you're practicing with a partner, an NVC partner, then it's just for your ears only. And there's a fine line here between getting it out and understanding, like getting the information, and fueling your judgments. So you want to get it out, but you don't want to feed and actually increase and enhance the judgments and make them bigger. If you start to do that, so if you really feel like you're getting caught up in the judgments and it's getting bigger and bigger, and I would encourage you to do a thought labeling practice. And I have a recorded version of this on my website, but just to help see the thoughts, label them, and just put them aside. See the thought, and they'll keep coming up and up and up and up again. They'll be quite charged. So this is really letting you know what's really alive for you. Like this was a triggering situation, and there's something really burning and alive in you. And from this, we want to see all the judgments, get it out, blaming, right, wrong, good, bad, this shouldn't have happened, the shoulds and shouldn'ts. And this is also, you may also have a lot of judgment. So you probably have a lot of judgments for the other person. You probably also have a lot of judgments of yourself as well. So just putting it all down. Now, from this information, so just moving on, so just pause if you need to now. So from this information, just now drawing out what actually happened, the facts. So what are the facts as I remember them? What did I see, hear, touch, notice, remember? And this is spoken in such a way that everyone would agree on. So in my example of my friend not calling, if I was to say to her, look, when you said you would call on Monday and you didn't, she would agree on that. Okay, that's pretty straightforward. Saying that, most people are conditioned to hear judgments and to feel like they're in the wrong, or, you know, so that can still be triggering. I just want to acknowledge that as well. It's not just clean. If you say the facts, then they take it as the facts. Again, it's message sent, not always message received, but it's the best start in a sense. And we can't, as we said, we can't We can't know how the other person will respond. But in this step, we are looking for just those facts that that we would both agree on. So when that happened, when you remember that what happened, what are you feeling? What's the feelings now? So we're looking for body sensations, not what we think we feel, or not what we think someone did, or what is the body sensation? Do I feel scared? Do I feel nauseated? Do I feel trembly? Do I feel numb? Do I feel distressed? So just looking for a real feeling word. If we're implying that someone's responsible for how we feel, this is what's called a faux feeling. So a faux feeling, some examples of faux feelings are if we feel betrayed, if we feel abandoned or rejected or intimidated. So all of these we use in our society, like in our daily life, we use them as feeling words, but they're actually implying that someone's done something to us, or that someone else is responsible for how we feel. Can you see that? Like if you feel betrayed. So if we just take betrayed, so there's obviously a feeling there. We're certainly feeling something, but to say I feel betrayed is implying that someone has done something, and it's putting the power into someone else's hands, that they can make me feel betrayed. So how might we actually feel in our body if we're telling ourselves that we feel betrayed? Just consider for a moment, if you felt betrayed, how would you actually feel? So I would probably feel hurt, distressed, upset. Okay. What about if you feel rejected? I'm sure you probably have all at some point related to that term, I feel rejected. Just check in with your body. How would you actually feel if you felt rejected? So I would feel upset, lonely, maybe even scared. Okay, so that's the idea. We're really looking for real feeling words, not the faux feelings. So it's more of a body sensation. We can actually even locate it in the body. Okay, so the next step is now to, oops, sorry. So now we're aiming to now get in touch with our needs. So in this situation, what was really important for me? So coming up with a variety of strategies, this can help to point us to our needs. And it also can help to keep us open so we don't get locked into one strategy. Okay. So if you just think now, what's some ideas that you have about moving things forward? What do you think needs to happen next? And we're looking for things that are actually people can do. So we don't want to say what we don't want done. We want to actually have something that's doable and is real, like it's something real that someone can do, something more tangible, it's actionable. So what would you like to happen? Now from this information, we can then really start to connect with what the underlying needs are. So what matters most to me about the situation? What do I care most deeply about. And it's important to have a needs list. So there are official, like there, or not official, there are NVC needs lists to refer to, because in NVC, as I spoke about, needs are very specifically defined. So I encourage you to access an NVC needs list, which again, if you have my workbook, there's a needs list in the workbook, and I go into some more everyday language ways to describe our needs in everyday language as well. So just thinking now what's most important about the situation. So in the example I used, so it was really that triggering situation where my friend said she would call and then didn't call that day. So some of the needs that were activated, so to speak, for me would be our connection, the support that I got from our friendship and connection. I may have also, maybe really important to me to stick to our word, like to really integrity. So if we say we're going to do something, to follow through with it. That is a real need, a human need. And there could be a bunch of others too. You'll usually come up with a group of, there'll be, quite a few needs. There'll probably be 1, 2, or 3 that are really prominent, that were really triggered. So in that situation with the phone call, it was probably our friendship, the support from our friendship, that would have been the most relevant or most alive in me at that point. And at this stage too, you can, if you're ready, you can't usually consider what the other person was caring about until you really felt like you understand what was happening for yourself and you feel at peace. There's some sort of peace around what was happening for you. And then you can often shift into, well, I wonder what was important to them. And in the case of my friend, family could have been extremely important yesterday. There could have been something happening. Flexibility, spontaneity, to be able to call when it's really meaningful for her to call could have been really important. So meaning, not to do something because someone's told her, or because there's an external motivator. So she may really need it to be meaningful and to be in the right space. Maybe she wasn't in the right space and she really needed to wait until she was in the right frame of mind to be able to call. So these are the sorts of things you can start to, and of course we're only guessing. We never know exactly what someone is needing. We can only guess. But it helps to shift our thinking in that direction. So just contemplate needs for as long as you need, really. There can be layers of needs. There can be some obvious needs that bubble to the top really quickly. And then when you really sit with it a bit longer, and this is where mindfulness can come in too, just to sit quietly with yourself and check in with what it is you really needed in this situation, then other things can bubble up that you may not have considered. And this can be really important to work with a partner, with a practice buddy or practice partner, because sometimes they can pick up things you may not have even thought about, and it can ring true. Not that they're telling you, but they can suggest things you think, oh, actually, I think that's actually quite accurate. That's happened a number of times for me, to have someone else there with a different perspective and possibly not as emotional about the situation. They can just see a little bit clearer. That's why it's really useful to be in the practice group and practice with one another. Okay, so now we've got a bit clearer with with what's happening for us, what the trigger was, how you felt, what you were needing. Now, if you were actually going to discuss this with the other person, if I was actually going to have the conversation with my friend, I'd really want to check in, what's my intention, and or some of the ways that you can view this is the WAIT acronym. So why am I talking? So just to be really clear, are you wanting to get your own way? Are you wanting to make her feel bad? Am I sure about myself too, or am I wavering and hesitant and wishy-washy? I want to be very clear, very specific, and I also want to be really connected with my deeper needs. So the deeper needs, we haven't covered this yet so far, but your deeper needs are things you value, like how do you want to live as a person overall, regardless of this situation? How do you want to be as a person? How would you like to be remembered? Like, do you value patience and care? Do you value connection? You want to really, regardless of anything else, you want to really maintain connection. That's really important. Your relationships are very important, so you want to maintain connection. So just checking in with, what are my deeper needs? And this can be very grounding too, regardless of what's happening in this situation. And on the surface, there will always be deeper needs that it's really useful to connect with before having a conversation. And timing. So when is the best time to have this conversation for the best possible outcome? You don't really want to just spring this on someone when they're not really expecting a difficult conversation. So just even asking permission to say, look, I've just got something I need to talk to you about. Are you up for a bit of a deeper conversation right now? Just in your own words, as simple. Is it okay to have a bit of a tricky conversation? Are you up for a tricky conversation? Can we sit down together later and have a cup of tea? I've got something I'd like to talk to you about. So just picking the timing, not just springing it on someone, and just asking permission. And it's much more likely to be received well. You're already setting up respect and care in the conversation before you even start. And just acknowledging any power difference. So things that we're looking for where there may be a power imbalance are age, if there's a difference in age, if my friend was a lot younger or a lot older. Experience, different experiences, like especially in a work situation. Gender, so there can be, depending on your culture, there can be a power difference based on whether you're male or female, or if someone is in a natural position of power, like a parent or a boss are already in a natural, stronger power position. So these are just things to take into consideration. You'll probably approach the conversation differently based on the power difference, if there's any power difference, and just modify your language. And you'll talk, just to be really clear, you'll talk differently to your boss than you would with your young child, if that makes sense. That seems obvious, but it can be important to acknowledge. And the final step in this journal is in how do you want to move things forward? So we've gone through, the classic NVC: observation, feelings, needs, including deeper needs. Now we want to move things forward. We don't want to sit in the past. We want to actually move things forward. And it also lets the other person know how they can help us to meet our needs. And so this is important to use right speech here. This is my Buddhist influence coming in. Courtesy and thanks to Oren Sofer as well. So looking at right speech, I think this is really useful, regardless of if you're Buddhist or not, but to speak with truth, to speak with the intention of being helpful, kind, and just to have skill and care in delivery. So again, we craft our words to be kind, non-blaming, and honest as possible. And also remember, we spoke in the first session about too many words, like, putting out too much for someone to take in. So just chunking it down to smaller pieces that the other person can actually take in. So these are all things to consider when making a request. So this is a process that ideally you would do over and over and over again with many different situations. I'm sure if you're anything like me, there's usually multiple opportunities throughout the day to choose, like little triggering moments where you can sit down. You don't have to do the full thing in so much detail, but just sit down. Observation, feelings, needs, request, and just to keep thinking, keep your whole mind and nervous system reprogramming to think observations, feelings, needs, request, and then it just starts to become natural. Then you can drop the form of the journaling, and it just starts to come through in your everyday language. And as I said, this is where you really start to integrate the essence of NVC into your life. And even when there are pleasant feelings, so if you're triggered if that's the right word, into in a pleasant situation, if you're having pleasant feelings, even journal with the pleasant feelings and see what needs were met. So we've just looked at needs that were unmet because there were unpleasant feelings. So just looking at those times where you had pleasant feelings, and just go through the journal. What was the observation? What actually happened? How did you feel? And again, located in the body, where you felt uplifted, felt joyful, whatever it was. What were the needs met? Were there needs for connection? It was lovely to be in the sun, so getting out, warmth of the sun and being out in nature. And requests, it's a little bit... there's no need for a request in that sense, but that's the idea, to really connect your feelings and your needs to your needs. And just to one last thing that I would like to really emphasize is, with these journaling processes, is just be aware not to let the mind spin over and over in the difficult situation. This can be unhelpful. This can actually reinforce our habitual patterns and our judgments. So just to be aware. And that's where it's useful also to have a partner to just keep bringing you back to the process. Okay, so we've gone over the NVC journaling tool, and I just would encourage you to try it again, like just over the next few days. Pick something from your day that was triggering and to go through this process, and let me know how you go. So email any questions or feedback, and thanks for listening. And I hope that you join me for the next session, in which we'll go through emotional regulation. So how to manage the difficult emotions that come up, particularly in challenging conversations. So I've got some strategies around how to manage the difficult emotions. Okay, thank you.